I'm John Elkington, and I'm a founder of an organization called SustainAbility. We mainly work with business on a wide range of issues, from climate change to human rights. I think water has very much been on the agenda this year, but one of the problems I think we face is that climate change is in the ascendant, and people are not always making the link to water in the ways that they perhaps should. I think that's coming, and I think over the next 2 to 3 years water will progressively build into a really central component of the Davos agenda. I think the major users of water have a number of different reasons for being interested and in some cases concerned. I mean, we've seen in countries like India, companies like Coca-Cola being whacked around the head because of water supply issues. We've seen companies like Intel coming in up against major water access problems in New Mexico, Israel, elsewhere. So these issues in terms of the supply agenda are becoming increasingly important for companies. But at the same time, they equally recognize that as the water issues start to be actively engaged, not just by the activists and non-governmental organizations, but by governments, but by communities, by business, there is a huge potential for being seen to be part of this new, in a sense, movement, but also being a provider of some of the technological, logistical, financial solutions that will increasingly be needed. I think the water issue is increasingly on people's agendas for a range of different reasons. In addition to the sort of access and supply issues, there are quality issues that are building very rapidly, and the spread of megacities and slum settlements, that's dramatizing the urgency of the water issue. We've just done a book called The Power of Unreasonable People, and what we're looking at there is entrepreneurs who describe themselves as social entrepreneurs or environmental entrepreneurs or whatever term they use, who are basically trying to address areas of extreme, in many cases, market failure. And so Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh would be perhaps the most notable example of these sorts of entrepreneurs. But here in Davos this week we've had somebody who's just won the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship Award in the UK for the leading social entrepreneur in that country. And his name's Reed Paget, and he runs a company called Bellew, and what they do is they create a range of bottled water products. They're stocked by the supermarkets, but all of the profits go to water development projects in the developing world. Now, that's a relatively small-scale set of solutions to date, but the potential for application and leverage through the retailers, the supermarkets and others, I think is very substantial indeed. So I think there's a spectrum of initiatives here, and I think some of the entrepreneurial ones, the smaller ones, are probably more likely longer term to be truly disruptive, and I think we really need to disrupt the current ways in which we process and supply and use water worldwide.
So coming back to Davos, say next year or the next 2 or 3 years, where do you think we'll be with water? Is this a lot of talk that's going to take a long time to gel and long time to implement, or is this something that's going to pick up steam, so to speak?
I think the way that the Davos community responds to big issues is to pick them up and play with them for a while, but longer term, the ideal is that the new perspectives, the new priorities are shot through everything that happens here. So last year, for example, climate change was a very, very big issue. It is this time too, but the real thinking and action is tending to happen in some of the parallel and side events. My hope would be over the next 18 months, 2 years, water comes center stage at Davos, but within a very short period of time after that, it's shot through everything the World Economic Forum and its partners do. Our organization, SustainAbility, is 21 years old. We mainly work with business. Quite a number of those companies are huge users of water, so increasingly that issue is surfacing for them, and we've worked with Coca-Cola in India just as one example. But I think for most of them, it's still relatively low down the agenda. And one of the other things I do, I'm on the Council of Ambassadors of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, and they have an emerging campaign around embedded water. And I think a range of different initiatives are still needed in order to capture the minds, the hearts and minds of policymakers, of business leaders, and the financial institutions as well. And so I think there's probably a 3 to 5 year challenge here.
I just want to ask one last question. What drives your passion?
What grabs me? I don't have any choice in the matter. When I was about 7 in the mid-1950s, I lived in Northern Ireland, and one night I went out into a field in pitch dark, coming home from supper with a farm labourer. Why my parents allowed me out in those conditions, I have no idea. But I suddenly found myself surrounded by baby eels, elvers, moving in a great elastic sheet across this field. They may have been going from the disused flax ponds or a river. I don't know which way they were going, but it was an astonishing moment of connection, because I knew what these things were after a moment of complete surprise. I knew the sort of linkages out to and including the Sargasso Sea. And in that moment, something snapped in my brain, some switch went over. So you could say water's been part of the way I see this challenge right from the very outset. These days, I'm in it because I think a world of 9 to 10 billion people, which is what the demographers say we're headed towards, simply isn't sustainable on the current economic models, business models, technologies that we use. And we need a profound set of revolutions in order to make the 21st century manageable, sustainable, livable.